don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss what happens next. Also, please like and subscribe to our channel. From a windowless room on the third floor, muffled cheers drifted through, making Maya grit her teeth. Graduation was tonight, but for her, it couldn't be further away. She perched on the edge of the mattress, hugging her knees to her chest, the diploma lying forgotten in her lap. A knock rattled the doorframe. "Maya, honey, it's time." Her mother's voice dripped with false sweetness. "The show is about to start." Down below, the hall buzzed with anticipation. Students dressed in finery waited patiently for the procession. The once vibrant campus felt alien now. The library where she studied late into the night, the dorms where she stayed up talking for hours on end, even the quad where she argued with friends all seemed foreign. As she joined the procession, her mother trotted alongside her, smoothing her gown and adjusting her mortarboard. She looked radiant, but Maya wasn't admiring her reflection. She could only think of her father waiting downstairs, holding aloft his camera, capturing every moment. Just as the ceremony began, she saw him. He sat beaming in the front row, his eyes filled with pride. And next to him, her brother, Leo, grinning, munching on nachos. Their faces were lit by the giant screen, displaying live images of the graduates walking across the stage. When her name echoed through the hall, her heart hammered against her ribs. She clutched the diploma, her legs wobbly, wondering why her mother hadn't told her about the platform. Before she could react, her father was there, his arm reaching out to drape the stole around her shoulders. His fingers lingered too long. "Careful, Dad," she whispered, tugging it free. She walked slowly towards the podium, her eyes dry, resisting the urge to cry. It was too late now. There was no turning back. With the stole settled, she turned to her family, hoping for support, but they weren't looking at her. They were gazing intently at the screen, mouths agape. For a moment, Maya didn't understand. Then she saw it. On the screen, instead of her receiving her diploma, there was her brother, being hoisted onto his chair, cheering wildly. She whipped around. Her father was fumbling with his phone. Her mother had covered her face with both hands. In the corner of her eye, she saw Leo trying to stifle a laugh. She stormed off the platform, ignoring the clapping and calls of congratulations, fleeing the smug smiles of her family, their eyes gleaming with triumph. Outside, on the pavement, she sank to the ground. People hurried past, some casting curious glances at the lone figure huddled by the wall. A single tear escaped, tracing a hot path down her makeup-free cheeks. She pulled her knees to her chest, burying her face in them, fighting back sobs. What had her family done? What did they gain by humiliating her? Was this the price she paid for being the dutiful older sister, the quiet one, the one who always let Leo have his way? The celebrations continued inside, but she remained there, wrapped in the safety of the shadows, listening to the echoes of laughter. A giggle cut through the noise. Her mother's. She sounded close. Too close. Peeking around the corner, she saw them approaching. Her mother stood in the middle of the sidewalk, her arms crossed, her eyes flashing. Her father kept glancing at his phone. Next to him, Leo bounced on the balls of his feet, his grin wide. "You ruined everything," she whispered, the words catching in her throat. Her mother tilted her head, her expression hardening. "You did that yourself, Maya. By tripping at the ceremony. What do you expect us to do?" "They should have given me the stole," she said, her voice barely audible. Her father scoffed. "Stop acting like a baby. You wanted to make a scene. You did. Now let it go. You're overreacting again." "How dare you speak to her like that?" Leo snapped, taking a step forward. "It was my night and you ruined it." "Leave me alone," she whispered, cowering against the wall. "Oh, you want to play the victim?" Leo sneered. "Fine, be that way. But don't complain when your life passes you by. No one will remember you." "They'll remember me, though," he shouted, flexing his biceps. "I'm going pro, Dad, you and Mom will see." He strutted away, leaving her bathed in the eerie light spilling from the building. When she finally dared to look up, she met her mother's gaze. Her mother's eyes glinted with triumph. "Tell me, Maya, are you still standing there pouting or have you picked yourself up to enjoy your freedom?" "What? I thought you hated us anyway. Now you can go live your miserable life without us. We won't hinder you anymore." And with that, they disappeared around the corner, leaving her alone with the echoes of their laughter and the realization that she truly was on her own. She stayed there until the streetlights flickered on, painting the pavement in hues of orange and yellow. The city was coming alive. The party was over for everyone except her. The hours crawled by. Sleep was impossible. So she wandered aimlessly through the empty streets, her mind racing. Had she been wrong about her family all along? Were they truly capable of such cruelty? As dawn painted the sky in soft pastels, she found herself standing before the imposing facade of the courthouse. The sight triggered a fresh wave of anger. She burst through the glass doors, sending a tinkling melody of chimes echoing through the silent hall. She needed action, a distraction, anything to chase away the hollowness that threatened to engulf her. Her eyes landed on the rows of computers lining the wall. With shaking hands, she clicked the power button on the nearest one. As the screen flickered to life, she typed furiously, searching for answers. Her search led her to the town's zoning department. She found blueprints of the city, designating areas for commercial use, residential zones and public spaces. Her gaze fell on the coastal strip where Havenfall used to stand. Decades ago, it had been a thriving community. Then the fishery failed, the residents packed up and left, leaving behind the skeletal remains of their homes. Since then, the town had expanded, swallowing up beachside plots, turning them into parking lots, mini golf courses and souvenir shops. But one piece of land remained untouched. The site of Havenfall, including the majestic lighthouse that had guided ships safely into the harbor. It was privately owned, the papers said, by the Taylor family. She recognized the name instantly. It was her father's maiden name. Suddenly, she remembered the stories her grandmother used to tell about the lighthouse. About how her ancestors had built it, brick by weathered brick, about the storms they weathered together, about the hopes and dreams carried on its beams. And then she recalled the box, heavy and old, hidden in the attic, filled with papers and maps. Could her grandmother have claimed the land? Hadn't sold it? She rushed home, desperation lending speed to her steps. The house was eerily silent. Her family was probably still celebrating. In the attic, surrounded by cobwebs and memories, she found it. The box was tucked away in a dark corner. Inside, she found a faded map and a letter tied with a ribbon. The map bore the faded stamp of a surveyor. And the letter was from her grandmother to her, addressed simply to my warrior. She read, "When wolves dress as kin, you become the storm." Below the letter was a document, a declaration of intent. She read, "To hold a federal reclamation day on February 19, 1978, claiming the Salgado property lost due to unjust means. Until the truth is unveiled, the enemy may keep possession of the Salgado lands, but ownership remains with the rightful heirs." Her grandmother had fought for this. How could she let her efforts go to waste? That night, under the cloak of darkness, she returned to the courthouse. This time, armed with documents and determination, she located the records department, poring over old files. Her search led her to a faded folder marked Salgado Case. Inside, she found the original survey of the Havenfall area. It detailed every inch of land, including the lighthouse. As she traced the lines with her finger, she realized the extent of what was at stake. If the document was correct, her grandmother had reclaimed not just the lighthouse, but the entire coastal stretch. It would make her family rich. With a jolt, she understood her parents' reaction at the graduation. They weren't just celebrating Leo. They were securing their future. This wasn't about a petty honor. It was about control, power, money. She dug deeper, uncovering a pattern of deceit. Her family had never paid taxes on the lighthouse land. They'd bullied neighbors, intimidated witnesses and cheated their way into every advantage. Her grandmother's letter echoed in her ears, "When wolves dress as kin, you become the storm." Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. She worked tirelessly, assembling evidence, preparing for her fight. The local news caught wind of the story, running headlines about the decaying lighthouse and the mystery of its owner. Finally, the day arrived. The crisp air vibrated with tension as she stood before Judge Meredith Blake. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Her parents sat in the front row, their faces pale, their eyes flickering nervously between her and the judge. The years of planning, the sleepless nights, the mountains of paperwork, it all came down to this moment. The judge reviewed the evidence, her gaze sharp, her voice steady. After what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "On the basis of the presented documents, it is affirmed that Maya Rodriguez holds rightful claim to the lands encompassing Havenfall, including the lighthouse." Her parents' faces drained of color. They mumbled objections, reaching for their phones, but the judge silenced them with a sharp look. "Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, your daughter has proven her case. Legally, morally, she is the sole owner of the Havenfall property." As Maya watched, her parents slumped in their seats, defeated. Justice, sweet and hard-earned, settled in her bones. But she knew the fight wasn't over. Her family wouldn't give up easily. Standing tall before the judge, she vowed to protect what was hers. Little did she know a new storm was brewing, one that threatened to engulf her in its fury. She just might be on her own after all. Stay tuned to find out what twist of fate awaits Maya and how her journey for justice continues. Will her family respect the court's decision or do they have another trick up their sleeves? Don't miss the next episode to find out.